Amen. Amen. Okay, Psalms chapter 2 and 3, woke God haters and the rulers of this world. That'll be our title. In chapter 1, we talked about how Psalms and music can be a powerful tool to promote either righteousness or wickedness in a culture. And we witnessed that in a big way, and we talked a lot about it, about the Beatles and how they literally took control of an entire generation. Okay, they literally took control of an entire generation, turning them against God and the Bible without many even realizing that it was happening. I mean, they were just like in a total delusion. They had no idea that this band and other bands and other forces in culture were getting them to despise and hate God and his word. Some would say, well, this is a conspiracy theory. What are you talking about? Music being used to get people to hate God and things like that. Well, in chapter 2 and 3 that we're going to read today, we're going to see proof that the rulers of the nations are indeed plotting and planning to remove Christianity from the world. All right, let's get right into it. Psalms 2, verse 1. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? What does it mean to rage? Okay, I know a lot of people think of rage. They think of that video after one of the latest presidential elections where there is that crazy woman just screaming, right? Ah! Okay, I guess you could say that's an example of rage. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. First, let's look at this. David asks this as a question. He poses this as a question. Why do they do this? And why does he do that? Because he can't understand why anybody in their right mind would be raging against God. It doesn't make any sense. There's no hope in that. It's only going to lead to self-destruction. And so he starts out this psalm with, why do they do that? It makes no sense to me. And I know if you're a believer, you also ask these questions. I know my kids ask these questions as well. Well, why would somebody choose Satan over God? It's dumb. It's very foolish to do that because you're just going to hurt yourself and you're going to end up going down the path of destruction that leads to death of the soul. All right. So David says, why would anybody in their right mind rage against God? Well, what we're witnessing today with the LGBTQ perversion running rampant and trying to influence every aspect of our culture, that is a perfect example of what we see in this verse about the heathen raging. Let me take this even further. Tell somebody who truly believes in LGBTQ, transgenderism, all this kind of stuff, tell them that what they're doing is a sin, and watch the rage come about them. Watch their eyes get wide and all this anger start coming forth from them and them spewing hatreds out of their mouth. Okay? Why do they do that? We look at those people and it's like, that is a sad soul indeed. Okay? To hate God that much when he is the one that's, trying to help them. So, but why do they hate him? Why do they rage? We can kind of answer this question a little bit. David says this in a way that is like, hey, why would you do that to yourself? It's stupid. But why do they do it? Because they hate God. Okay? They hate God and his word. They feel, now check this out, they feel as though God and anybody exposing them for what they're doing, exposing them for their sins, they feel that we and God are the oppressors. We are stopping them from being able to freely express themselves. Okay? So they feel we are the tyrants. They think God is a tyrant and Satan is the what? Liberator. Okay? Where have we seen that before? Who believed that lie before? Eve. Okay? We can go into women's lib and all that, where the women feel like the man is the oppressor and they need to be liberated and all that. All these same lies go back to the Garden of Eden when Satan says, I'll put it this, I'll quote a little bit here. In Genesis chapter 3, when God said, hey, don't eat of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. He said this to Adam and Eve. If you do, you're going to die. So what does the serpent do? He comes out over to Eve when she was by herself and says, yea, hath God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? You shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened. What does open mean? Woke. You're awakened to something higher. Okay, there's no accident that the movement promoting all the stuff we're seeing in culture today is called woke. Okay? So Satan says, your eyes will be opened, you shall be woke, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. You should be able to do whatever you want to do. Make up your own morality. What is the statement that people say? Do what is, you do you. Okay, you do you. You do what you make up. You're a god. You have the power to make. You don't want. So in other words, what Satan is telling Eve here, what he's deceiving her into thinking that God is the oppressor, restricting her from being able to live out her full potential and be able to partake of the pleasures involved in partaking of the fruit of the tree. Okay, a lot of times Satan will trick us with he knows that there are certain things called pleasures, and he knows that it's a human nature to want that pleasure, that good feeling. So he tells us that we deserve to have that good feeling. And if anybody tells you differently, they are an oppressor, not letting you experience life to its fullest. Okay? And then, and the woman... Now, I'll explain that, about the pleasure part. So, and the woman, after Satan got in her mind here, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food. Oh, it is. It looks good for food. And that it was pleasant to the eyes. Pleasant to the eyes. It looked like it was going to satisfy her hunger, and it was actually pleasant to her eyes, and a tree desired to make one wise. All of those... these are the weak points in man, if you're to look at it. Wanting food, wanting other things that are pleasant to the eyes. We're not going to go into that today, but the older people understand. And they also want to be very intellectual, very smart. And this so-called tree appeared to promise them all of these things. And Satan made God look like the mean tyrant that wouldn't let her experience that fun. Okay, but what was she under when she partook of the tree, the fruit of the tree? Strong delusion. So why do the heathen rage? I'm going to tie this back together. Why do the heathen rage when it's a very stupid and foolish thing to do? Because they've been deceived by Satan and they are under a strong delusion. They cannot think rightly, okay? They are in their left brain instead of their right brain. No, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but instead of being a right-wing extremist, they are a left-wing nut job, right? All right. Verse 2, the kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel. What is the word? Take counsel together. That means they actually sit in rooms and make plans. Okay? Who? The rulers of the world. Against the Lord and against his anointed. Against God himself, the Father. Against God himself, the Father. And against the anointed. Who is the anointed one? Anybody back there? Jacob, Joshua? Who is the anointed one?
Jesus.
Right. What does it mean? The one set apart for a special purpose, okay? And in this case, Jesus was anointed as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, okay? So what's interesting is they are not only against God, but they are against the Lord Jesus Christ. Two people here, against the Father and they're against the Son. Now, let me say this. There are some people who believe that they can still worship the Father without having the Son. That would be your non-converted people, your non-converted Jews, right? They think that still want to believe that they're following the Old Testament, okay? You can't do it. You can't do it. If you don't, in one place in the New Testament, it says, if you don't have the Son, you don't have the Father. If you're at enmity with the Son, you are at enmity with the Father, okay? So it doesn't work. You see, they're together. All right. So these rulers, the kings of the earth and the rulers, they gather together and they discuss how they're going to do these things, how to remove God and Christ. Verse 3, this is what they say here. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. What are bands and cords? Attachments, right? Things that attach. They want to remove God and the teachings of Jesus Christ from the culture. They literally conspire on how to do this. So if somebody says, well, you're a conspiracy theorist, you say, absolutely, I'm not, I believe in true conspiracies. You don't believe in every strange thing you hear out there, but we do know that the evil conspire against the righteous. They're always making plots and plans to destroy. It's interesting, talking about culture and music and all, and what Satan said in the Garden of Eden. A lot of the modern day rock bands, so to speak, really revere a man named Aleister Crowley. And he had that slogan that said, do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. The whole law is do what thou wilt. That means do whatever you do, okay? But in a different way. And a lot of the music will portray that same rebellious slogan in many different ways, okay? That same rebellious spirit. Just do what you will. And this is another area where we need to be really careful. We need to be careful to define what freedom is, okay? A lot of people's idea of freedom is that America you should have full access to any wicked, vile vice that you can think of. You should have full access to any kind of drug you want, any kind of sorcery that you want. You should have full access to pornography and all those things because we're a free country. Okay? Well, those things destroy freedom. Okay? If you're going to be, looking at those things, it's going to take away freedom. Those things are designed, drugs, pornography, and things like that. They're designed to hold you captive, to bring you down. So Satan has figured out crafty ways to make us define freedom as you get to do whatever you want. Well, that's not true freedom. Okay? In fact, when we talk about these people when going back to where David said, why do the heathen rage? They feel we are oppressing them, right? Stopping them from being able to live out their life to the fullest, to be able to experience every pleasure and earthly sensation that they can while they're here. But the opposite is true, right? God's commandments do not bring bondage or oppression. They merely protect you from the oppressor. And what is the oppressor? Satan, obviously. Sin. Okay? So these people, they are under such a strong delusion. They are the captives. They are the prisoners that are raging against God and Christ and the very people that are trying to free them, to truly liberate them as a person or as a being, as a child of God. But they rebel against that and they hate that. It's amazing. It's amazing that, the delusion that people are under. And I'll go on even a little bit further. We are actually witnessing the result of these leaders getting together and planning this stuff. And we're actually seeing the weapon that they intend to use. And a lot of people say, well, Pastor Ben, why do you bring up the LGBTQ plus abominable movement so much? They're not a community. Don't get in the mistake of calling them a community. They are not a community. They are a group of rebels that despise and hate God, okay? Why do we bring this up? Well, it is obvious that the method that the kings and the rulers are using right now to try to eradicate Christianity from the earth is trying to promote and use this woke LGBTQ plus movement to normalize and honor the most abominable behavior known to man. Okay? They're turning what's wicked into what's right, and then what they're going to do is they're going to, from there, once everybody considers this normal and honorable, think about these pride jerseys that these teams are wearing. It's not about acceptance and tolerance. It's about honoring them, revering them, okay? Nobody puts that much money and that much effort into promoting something that they don't want honored. It's not merely just let them play the sport type of a thing. They want us to revere these wicked abominations, okay? In a stage, once you revere something that is abominable, then what do you in turn hate? Right? You're going to hate the commandments of God. If you revere something as honorable and wonderful, the thing that opposes that is going to be something that you hate and you're going to rage against. So that is part of the big brainwashing, my friends. That's the answer to David's why they're doing this, is because they have been programmed. They are being programmed. And the next stage is criminalizing Christianity as what? Since LGBTQ is now love, what is Christianity? Biblical Christianity. Hate. Hate speech. Okay? You promote the sin, honor the sin, make it great, and then anything that opposes that greatness is now the thing that's evil. So Satan has, basically it's simple. Satan has made rebellion, any kind of rebellious nature, he's made that normal and honorable, and any kind of loyalty to God is hateful and despicable and abominable. You, me, we here together in this room are considered an abomination to the wicked. People who believe in transgenderism and all this weird demonic stuff, they think we are the abomination, when in turn it really is them. And we're trying to help them, but they're trying to destroy us. That's why they rage. They are under this delusion that was planned by the kings and rulers of this world. All right, continuing on. Verse 4. I love this. How does God respond? He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. So God isn't shaken one moment by this great rebellion. He's up there sitting on his throne, laughing at these people as though they are a bunch of imbeciles. Okay? Imbeciles. You only laugh at imbeciles if somebody's really threatening you and trying to overthrow you. You don't laugh at them unless they are somebody who is totally incapable of doing anything to you, right? And so that's what God does. But I think this is wonderful. There are some wonderful truths in this. If you want to know how to operate as a Christian, want to know how to glean things on how, get little pieces of wisdom on how we are to operate daily as a Christian. Well, if God sits and laughs at them, and not only does he laugh at them, it says he will have them in derision. What does that mean? Derision, if you look this up in the Hebrew, it means to mock. or to scoff at. So not only does God laugh at them, he mocks and scoffs them. Okay? Now, this is important because there is, like we talked about, there's power in music, and the enemy knows it. He uses it. The Psalms are an example of music that can be used, music and lyrics that can be used for good. But there's also power in mocking. There's power in satire. Okay? What I mean by that? Well, I want everybody to do a home assignment. A lot of you probably have already heard of this site. There's a Christian conservative website called the Babylon Bee. Okay? It produces all kinds of satire that make the enemies of Christianity and freedom look ridiculous. Okay? And so it's a powerful, satire can be used as a powerful influencer. Now, it's got to be done in moderation, right? You can't just be known as this guy that doesn't take anything serious in life and you're just a mocker and a scoffer type kind of a guy. But this is, and this is why, this is one reason why that there is a law against blasphemy, right? God doesn't want it legal for his enemies to belittle and to mock him. Because why? Because it makes that person go down, right? So they can replace it with something more dignified, right? And so that's why mockery is used. It's used by the devil. That's why Satan is always mocking Christ in some of these music genres and in music, and they have their comedians that mock the Bible, because it is a powerful way to influence people to believe the way you do, because you think something is ridiculous and is dumb and stupid, and therefore you can replace that with something else. Okay. But we can do the same thing back. God does it. We can mock the wicked, but we can do it and actually have truth. See, the enemy does it, but does it with lies. If you use satire and truth is on your side, that becomes a much more powerful weapon than what the enemy has, okay? Because not only your satire will actually ring true, you show the ridiculousness of the LGBTQ movement and how, just look at some of the examples of people making funny videos about them and how nothing lines up logically. And then other people, think about this. If I'm one who usually posts a lot of serious stuff on Facebook, it's usually serious, matter of fact, this is the truth. But not everybody takes well to that. So if you mix in a little bit of humor and satire, I think it's a lot more powerful influencer than just always being that serious person. When you can laugh at the enemy and joke about it and go, ha, 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 look at these guys, so stupid. Why? And going back to the question, David, in a sense, was probably using the satire a little bit because he said, why do these stupid idiots rage against God? A bunch of fools, right? And you'll notice there are a lot of videos on the Babylon Bee that will basically come at it from this angle where you look at these people and you're like, there's no logic. Why do these people do this? This is so stupid. These guys are imbeciles, right? But also notice this. Satan tried to mock Christ with the crown of thorns and all the ridicules that were cast upon him by not only the Roman soldiers, but by the chief priests and so on. But what did that mockery get them? It actually promoted the truth. Because you know what? We as a Christian, when somebody is true and righteous and you see them get mocked and treated like that undeservingly, that makes you love them that much more. Okay? Knowing that Christ had to suffer these idiots mocking him, and he could have at any time just snapped his fingers and burned them all up, knowing that he had that kind of restraint causes us to respect him and love him that much more. Okay? All right. So remember that. Don't post every serious, maybe not on Facebook. Maybe think about adding some satire. And I got to tell myself this as well. Don't get all angry at the heathen all the time, and mock them a little bit. Enjoy life a little bit. Laugh at them. All right, verse 5. You see, it's not always going to be laughing either, because check this out. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. So God won't laugh at them forever. There will come a time where they will feel the heat of his wrath. Verse 6, yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Now this is interesting, Zion. This is a special place to God. You see it all over the Bible. There's in history and in prophecy. Zion appears to be the place that this is the place where he wants Jesus, his son, to rule upon. He wants this to be the headquarters of the earth. Now, I bring this up because Satan knows this, right? Satan knows that Zion is God's favorite place. So what does he want? Well, now he wants Zion, right? He wants to take what is near and dear to God. Have you ever heard of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion and the modern day Zionist movement? Oh yeah, they've got all kinds. We talk about the kings of the world, plot and plan. These guys are the guys that gave the kings of the world at the United Nations and all these globalist meetings. They are the ones that gave them the plots and plans and have taught these leaders of the world how to use music, how to use mockery, how to use all these cultural tools to get the people to rage against God. Okay? So that what? They will replace God with their wonderful, benevolent dictator, the Antichrist. Okay? They don't consider him, the Antichrist, as somebody that's evil. They consider him a liberator. He's coming to liberate us from all the laws of God that are restricting. Why can't I go out and do this? Why can't I love another man? Okay? All right. I don't know why anybody would want to. It's you got to be twisted to even have any kind of attraction to someone of the same sex. I don't get it. It's never made. Wow. I can't even fathom it. Anyways. All right. So if you read, I want to encourage you guys to read the protocols of the learned elders of Zion along with the Bible, and you will know exactly what the Bible means when it says the kings of this world take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. It'll just all unfold to you, and you know what? It'll protect you from the strong delusion. Because I know a lot of people don't like to study the enemy, and you don't want to study the enemy all day long and be filled with rage against them all the time, anger, bitterness. But when you understand how the enemy operates, you will protect yourself from the strong delusion. When you hear lies, when you see somebody you'll recognize it and you'll say, no, no, sorry. I know where that's going. Not believing that for a minute. Okay. You can escape that strong delusion with the truth. Verse 7, I will declare the decree. God speaking, I will declare the decree. The Lord has said unto me, in fact, this would be the Son, actually. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said unto me, the Father has said unto me, thou art my Son. This day have I begotten thee. Wow, this is a wonderful quote. This, everybody knows that Jesus is called the Son of God, right? But do you know why he's called the Son of God? Primarily because of this verse right here. That the Father has made a decree that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. In Hebrews chapter 5, verse 5, the Apostle Paul writes about, he quotes this verse. It would do well to research that. Acts chapter 13, verse 33, this verse is quoted again. In Mark chapter 1, verse 11, this verse is quoted right after, or it isn't necessarily, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say it's quoted, but this is what God said out loud right after Jesus was baptized. He said, this day, he says, thou art my beloved son, this day have I begotten thee. Out loud. So that tells us something. Baptism is an important thing. It seems to be that moment that you become a child of God, when you have that rebirth, so to speak. Instead of coming out of the water of the womb of your mother, you're coming out of the water and being birthed onto this earth as a son or a child of God. Now, we know that Jesus, he was the only begotten of the Father in the flesh. But in John chapter 17, Jesus also informs us that he was not a created being. Okay? He was not a created being. He even said that he existed with the Father before the foundation of the world. Okay? So Jesus wasn't just some new thing that God made when, during the days of Mary. Okay? He didn't just create Jesus when Mary, create Jesus inside of Mary's belly. He put Jesus down into the earth, incarnate is the technical word, to be born here. All right, so Jesus has always been, even before baptism, he was the Son of God existing in the heavens. And Jesus even talks about after this flesh life, he was praying to the Father and he said, give me the glory that I had with you before the foundations of this world, or before this world was. All right. Why do I bring that up? Because it's just a little piece to the debate on who Jesus is. Some people try to say he's not. They want to understand, is he God? How can he be God and be the Son? Isn't the Father God? Isn't there only one God? And all that kind of stuff. I just want to throw a little piece in there that when you're trying to research who Jesus was, he existed. He declared that he existed before the world was even created. And in other places, it talks about him being the creator himself, because he is the Word that actually made everything. All right. Anyways, verse 8. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. So God says, ask of me, and I'll give you the heathen. All right. What do you think these heathen are going to get if Jesus has the right if Jesus has the rightful dominion over them? If they don't want him ruling over them, whoa. And if you're the rightful king and your subjects are saying, nah, we don't want you, what are you going to do about that? You're going to say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I wish you would though. Here's the verse 9. This is what he's going to do. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. So a little warning to the heathen that rage against God and his word. You think Satan's a liberator. Well, go ahead and keep thinking that, because you're going to have your day. You're going to have your day. Just stare at that rod and think about the day that it's coming for you, and you're going to be broken into pieces. You know, a metal. Now, notice this: a normal rod or a normal ruling staff was made out of what? Wood. Okay. What's the difference between hit somebody with an iron rod or hit somebody with a wood rod? What's going to be a lot more damaging? The iron, the metal. Wood has a little bit more give to it. But metal signifies that God's not going to have any softening in his wrath for these people. Okay? A warning to the ragers. What's also interesting for the overcomers, I want you to think about this. Jesus in Revelation chapter 2, verse 26 and 27 says that the Father has given him the rod of iron. And he says, I'm going to give it also to you to rule the nations. Think about that. Jesus is going to share his power with the overcomers. Okay? And that kind of power at that first day of the millennium, guess what you're going to be doing with that power? Okay? Oh, you over there, you don't want to obey the commandments of God? Whack! All right? All right, you can't do that now, but when Jesus comes, you're going to have free reign to break vessels into pieces, okay? And my wife wonders where I get my aggressive nature from when it comes to these things. And I say it's destiny, as long as I make it there, right? As long as I overcome, right? I don't want to get too prideful, but... All right, it's going to be a beautiful day when God's law reigns supreme. And if you don't like it, too bad. Too bad. You won't be around to not like it. Verse 10, be wise now, therefore, O you kings. Be instructed, you judges of the earth. Okay? Serve the Lord with fear. Wow. We don't hear too much about that anymore. We don't want to talk. We don't want to say that God's a scary God, a God full of judgment. He's a God of love, right? That's what the world tries to tell us. But God says he wants you, or the Son says, serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Okay? The fear of God, the book of Proverbs says, is the beginning of wisdom. All right, now if you're a believer and you're an overcomer, are you serving the Lord with fear? Not primarily. You know it's there. You know if you rebel against him, that's bad stuff's going to happen, right? But you're doing it out of love, pure love and respect and devotion and and wanting to return the love that he has given to us. But these people first need to serve God with fear and and rejoice with trembling. You know what trembling is? Shaking. That's, like shaking. You should shake in your boots if you think you can sin and get away with it and that you can hide it from God and you're not going to be held accountable for that sin. You better start trembling now because you will tremble there when you're staring down a rod of iron getting ready to smack you. Okay, now God, when he's going to hit somebody with that rod of iron, he's not going to have a big smile on his face. There's going to be fire coming out of his nostrils, if you would. And it's not going to be pretty, okay, to those people. Verse 12, kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish from the way. When his wrath is kindled but a little, blessed are all they that put their trust in him. So does Jesus ever get angry? I thought Jesus just looked like one of the Beatles. He was a big hippie, had long hair, and just walked around saying peace and love and flashing peace signs and rock and roll man and whatever else. Okay, that's what the modern church tries to get us to believe. But God tells us that the Son, you better kiss the Son lest he be angry and you perish if his anger is kindled just a little bit. All right? Now you think about this. Why... Pastor Ben, this seems like a totally different depiction of Jesus at the first advent. Okay? Why? Because this isn't the first advent. It's been 2,000 years since he's held out the olive branch saying, repent and believe. At this point, it's too late. You had your chance, and now it's time to pay the price. Okay? Now it's time to pay the price. So you reject, at this point, if you're one of these people, it's because you rejected his peace offer and rejected his love. So that's just what's left. Now, all right. No, kiss the Son. I just wanted to explain that a little bit. That is an important phrase there, and it's something that we all need to remember. Now, that's what you would do. That's what kings, it was a sign of obedience, okay? A sign of obedience to come under his authority, okay? Now, the wicked people of the world, they don't want to come under his authority. They consider it bondage. But we know it brings freedom, and we are instructed to do it. Psalms chapter 3. We're going to run right into this. This is titled A Psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. A lot of you guys know that whole story. I'm just going to briefly explain it. Absalom, years before he started this rebellion to try to steal the kingdom from his father David, was stealing the hearts of the people. He was saying, hey, come to me. I'll judge your matter. And he was probably deceiving them, lying to them, doing all these kinds of things. In other words, he wanted to be king. He didn't think his dad was a good enough king, so he thought, I would be a way better king than my dad. And he deceived the people. Now think Satan, right? He deceived the people into thinking that he was more righteous than his father. And if they just followed him, they wouldn't be oppressed by David's stern enforcement of God's law. Okay? That they'd get to have a little bit more enjoyment in life and maybe be able to choose their gender. And I don't know if they did that back then, maybe. But and so on. So David, it got to the point where Absalom actually stole the hearts of David's most trusted advisors even. Think about this. Absalom was no joke. He was not just some wicked kid that spazzed out and went bad. He was very calculated and was very effective at convincing people of lies. Okay? Now, I will say this. So David flees from him in the story. This is found in the book of Samuel, 2 Samuel. I can't remember the exact chapter. I don't know if it's 16, 17, around there. You'll find that story there. But he wrote this when he was fleeing from his son who was trying to steal the kingdom from him. And I'll make note of this. There are a total of 150 Psalms in this book. David is known to be the author of at least 73 of them, or at least about half of the Psalms were written by David. Check this out. Very short Psalm. I'll have a lot less commentary in this one, so don't worry, we're not going to go another hour here. Okay. Verse 1, Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. So David's wondering, what's going on? These people that used to love me, used to be part of my kingdom, I trusted them, they're all turning against me. Verse 2, many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God, Selah. Now, Selah, I don't know if we talked about this already. Selah was some kind of a pause. Some people believe that it was a pause that you were supposed to, if this was more of a poem rather than a song, that you were supposed to pause and meditate upon what was said. And others believe that it was a musical pause of some sort. Interesting. So they're saying there's no help for him in God, but thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory, and the lifter up of mine head. So it's interesting what David does. What does David do when the rebels when everybody starts turning against him? He turns to God in prayer and even in writing. Think about that. Some people keep journals where they write down their thoughts. They keep prayer journals or, spiritual journals where they're, writing the things that they would want to say to God. And that's what he was doing here, but under the influence of the Holy Spirit. Verse 4, I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. Selah. Another pause there. Out of the holy hill. Now it's interesting. We talked about the Zionists before. Where was David supposed to rule out of? Now David was a type, and I didn't talk about this a lot because I didn't want to add too many layers into that psalm. But David was a type of Christ, okay? He was the anointed one of God. In a sense, he was the begotten son, meaning that God had chosen him to be the king of Israel, okay? Holding that place for Christ, before his day. But where was David supposed to rule from? Zion. Where did David flee from? Zion. Who wanted Zion? Absalom. Absalom. So you could almost say David was the first satanic Zionist. Okay? By that I mean somebody who wants to control the world from Zion, want to rule from Zion when God had not chosen him to be the ruler. Okay? We have a whole movement today that reflects Absalom, the rebellious son. A movement, you just look it up, Zionist movement. They do not accept who? The Son. They do not accept Jesus Christ. Any Zionist movement today that does not put Christ at the center is a movement of the Antichrist. All right, I cried unto the Lord in my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill, Selah. I laid me down and slept. I awaked, for the Lord sustained me. This is interesting. So even though David was fleeing, there was a rebellion, his whole kingdom was in turmoil, many of his higher up guys turned against him, he still was able to sleep in peace. Think about all the people today that suffer from sleeplessness and things like that. I really truly believe that if you're truly making the Lord your refuge, your place of comfort, that no matter how bad things are around you, you can still find peace. You can still find peace. And David was able to do that. Verse 6, I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people that have set themselves against me round about. So this rebellion, like I said, this wasn't some minor rebellion. It wasn't just Absalom and his band of warriors that were going to just sneak into the capital and assassinate David. No, there were tens of thousands of people wanting Absalom to be the king instead of David. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for thou hast smitten all mine enemies upon the cheekbone. You know how you smite somebody on the cheekbone? Punching them, okay? This is God. He's saying that God has punched them in the cheek. All right. Thou hast broken the teeth of the ungodly. All right. So this is, I love these verses, and it might seem that I go overboard on these, but I do so because when are you ever going to sit in a church and the pastor ever talk about this side of God, punching somebody in the cheekbone and breaking out their teeth? Wow. And this brings back, why don't we hear that? Oh, because you first have to make the strong Christian men what? Weak and effeminate. So that the other strong men can come in and take over. All right? I want you guys to check this out today. I actually put it on my Facebook, Ben Heath Facebook. All right? Babylon Bee video. It shows that this Chinese general talking about how they're going to conquer Americans, how they're going to defeat Americans. They said, no, we're not going to fight them with with weapons and bombs and all that. No, we're going to call them by the wrong gender. We're going to use their unpreferred pronoun, and that's how we defeat the Americans. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious. But it's an example of, the enemy gets stronger. They promote masculinity. Hey, Russia is promoting masculinity. That's why they have anti-LGBT laws over there, because they know that we don't want our whole army, all of our men to be a bunch of Sallys, to be a bunch of effeminate, twisted weirdos, okay, that can't fight their way out of a paper bag, okay? We need some strong men that can move mountains, so to speak, all right? And I guarantee China is not raising up these kind of men, okay? Verse 8, salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessing is upon thy people. Selah. And that is the end, okay? Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessing is upon thy people. All right. So in conclusion, we see these Psalms. These Psalms are such an amazing insight, not only into the mind of David and how he confided in God and trusted in God and relied upon him for everything, but they're also they're very prophetic of things that have happened in the past and things that are yet to come. And like I said in the first study, many of these Psalms are prophecies that depict the life of the remnant of the woman's seed during the times and during the times of the Great Tribulation and just prior to that, when the whole world is gathering themselves up against Christ and against his anointed. And we're seeing it. We're living it right now. Anyways, we will be right back with questions and comments. Be sure to join us live every Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. for prophecy updates and Sunday mornings, 10:30 a.m. for our line-by-line Bible studies. If you live near Princeton, Minnesota, and would like to join us in person for our Sunday morning church services, please email me at ben@christianovercomers.com for details and directions. Also, be sure to visit our website at christianovercomers.com to sign up for our weekly email updates, find our latest prophecy updates on video or podcast, catch up with our line-by-line studies, also available on video or audio podcast. And we even archive all of our studies by date. So if you have a phone or a tablet, bookmark this page so you can play our studies on the go while you're driving, going for a run, or doing chores. Now to our questions and comments. All right, welcome back. We will take questions and comments.
First off, I love the Adam and Eve analogy that when you described it and when you break it down, it is exactly the definition of woke. And I just love when little things like that pop out because it just confirms, that even that long ago, it's the same tactics that Satan uses today, and it's interesting to me. Let's see here. We got some comments. Philip Evans says, a few years ago I began listening to an audio version of the Psalms when I go to sleep. Prior to that, I underestimated how much information is in that book. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then Freeman says, Hershey's chocolate went woke. I will no longer buy these products. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that yet.
Oh, it's actually pretty funny. If you go to the Daily Wire, they did a really funny video, like what you're talking about, how the Babylon Bee does. The Daily Wire did a really funny one on the Hershey bar thing. I forget the guy's name, but if you look it up on YouTube, just the Daily Wire Hershey's, they did a really cute, funny video that kind of exposes it for how stupid it was. It's called, I think, Jeremy's Chocolate or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that boycotting is a great tool to use. There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I don't boycott," because I mean that's one of the biggest things we have is boycotting and to wake some of these woke companies and people up.
Yeah, if we don't do it to them, they're going to do it to us.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly.
And Philip says it's hard to find a company that isn't woke these days. Mm-hmm. Most have jumped on the bandwagon. And then Freeman says, what do you think of them going after the Christians in Jerusalem? Is that a new thing?
Yeah, I don't know if they're referring to a new new
Maybe he can, if he's still listening.
new event that's happened recently or not? I'd have to
Yeah, I
look
usually
into that.
try to keep up to date with things, but I haven't heard that.
I know that it is illegal to evangelize in Jerusalem, and
Yeah.
it has been for as far as I know since the nation began in 1948.
Philip puts in here Revelations 2. This is interesting because this is what you just read in the Psalms. 26. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. Verse 27. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father.
Yeah, beautiful
Which
verse.
is probably, yeah, obviously it's repeating what David was saying right there, right?
Yeah, that's definitely coming from Jesus was quoting from Psalms 2 or referencing it and saying that he'll share that rod with the overcomers.
And then Philip says that he loves long lectures. The longer, the better.
All right. Well, thank you for the permission now. I'm actually one that does too. I like a lot of meat, a lot of information. And so when I search through videos, if I see one that's an hour and a half long, I'm like, yes, I'm going to get a lot of information. But I know some people are like, they want 10 minutes or less, or, so I know back in the day, I think it's due to our attention spans being not where they should be. I know the Apostle Paul, he would preach for hours. There was that one time he preached until, midnight or something like that, and he had been preaching for hours, and that guy fell asleep and fell off the balcony and died, and then he brought him back to life.
That's right.
So, yeah, I don't know what happened. I usually try to go about an hour at the most, but I appreciate that.
Freeman says it's a new event, so I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. Thanks for bringing that up. I'll have to check into that.
There's another one. Have you ever heard of Libs of TikTok?
No.
Well, they're on TikTok too, but I think they're on like Facebook and stuff. But all they do is take the videos that these trannies and stuff post.
Yeah.
And then they're just ridiculous. And they just replay them. They don't say anything. They don't do anything. They just replay them. And then everybody comments, that was how ridiculous. And they're getting in trouble for doing that when all they're doing is replaying what these people, I don't know, it's just interesting that you can get in trouble for posting what these people are posting, you'd think.
Right.
They don't want them to look bad.
Exactly. So I love that when they can turn it around, and you don't even have to be that clever.
Yeah.
Just play what they're doing, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, Candace Owens replayed one last week too of this guy at a gas station who got so mad at the attendant because he kept calling him sir, and he's
Right.
this big macho guy, and he's like, it's ma'am, and he's just totally having this freak out session, and she just was playing it and just like laughing uncontrollably because it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example of what's said there in the Psalms, that
Yeah.
you just have to laugh because they're so stupid and ridiculous, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
And the other thing I thought of is, and this is something I love stand-up comedy, and but currently, right now, I believe wholeheartedly that stand-up comedy is one of the last bastions of free speech.
Yeah.
And the comics and stuff, they know that, and
Yeah.
so they're pushing the envelope by continuing with content that isn't woke and isn't politically correct, and they're willing to take that chance. And so far, they've been winning the battle because they haven't been canceled, and so I don't know. I love stand-up comedy, and I just love that. That's one area where they're fighting back.
Yeah.
They're not gonna give in to political correctness, and
It's a lot harder for them to ban humor than it is for
Right.
somebody directly saying this is the truth.
Right.
exactly.
They know it's hard for them to do that, and I think that's why like you're saying, it's one of the last bastions of freedom, or a tool that we can use to promote truth is
Yep.
said. Who actually, now I was thinking about it, he was very successful for so many years and was like the pioneer of conservative talk radio. But Rush Limbaugh,
Yeah.
he was always sprinkling in humor and mocking the left and things like that. And look at how successful that was. I mean, not that you want to become the funniest Bible teacher in the world to gain audiences, but there is something to be said about having a light heart and being jolly, and not being so uptight all the time about it,
Yeah, Freeman says Jim Brewer is really funny, and yeah, he is. He still is huge on mocking the vaccine and the masking and stuff. I mean, he just comes out and lets him have it, and he has, he sells out theaters and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just,
That JP series.
yeah,
He's funny.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
yeah. So again, it's just refreshing when you see people that are not afraid to stand up and say it like it is.
Right.
See one more here. Cheryl Pearson says, "We will be worshiping and hearing God in heaven for eternity. We should enjoy spending more time talking about him on earth." I think referring to your, going long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured that. I knew she wasn't saying that we shouldn't talk about God being angry.
Right.
I know her well enough to know that. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Anything else? All right. Well, I think that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay in his word every single day so that you can be a Christian overcomer. God bless.
Christian Overcomers is brought to you by the tithes and offerings of our listeners. If you would like to support our ministry, please go to ChristianOvercomers.com. God bless you, and thank you for your support.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on.